What if getting fired at 63 became the best thing that ever happened to you? Today's guest went from fearing financial collapse to building real financial freedom later in life, proving it's never too late to change your future. David Nassief spent decades working a successful corporate career only to suddenly lose his job and realize he was dangerously close to running out of money in retirement. Instead of giving up, he rebuilt his life from the ground up, studied personal finance obsessively, and created a simple system that helped him go from nearly broke to becoming a millionaire by age of 69. Today, David helps others understand that building wealth doesn't have to be complicated, but it does require discipline, consistency, and the right mindset. Please join me in welcoming David Nassief. Let's get into it. Hello, David, and thank you for joining the Influence Exchange today. How are you?
I'm doing great, JV. Excited to be here with you today.
And I'm excited that you are here. I'm super excited, I must say, to dive in on what this conversation is going to bring to the table today. So, David, before you were fired at 63, which was the worst day, but then the best day of your life, who was David Nassif before that day happened?
Well, I was a pretty regular guy. I had a very nice corporate job, excellent corporate job. I have a wife, Mary, and my son, Adam. Mary and I had been married for 30 years at the time, and happy marriage and wonderful wife, very, very wonderful wife. And we've been in Phoenix since 1999. We love it. It's a beautiful place to be.
Yeah. So, pretty much what I'm hearing, David, you were just an average guy working a corporate life, family man, living good in Phoenix. And then one day happened, and you got either a phone call or you were brought into someone's office and saying, David, here's your pink slip. Thank you for your service.
Pretty much. That
Yeah,
was
right.
it. Well, like you say, I was 63. I had just got fired after 18 years with the same company. It's a day I wouldn't wish on anyone because here's the part that JV was kind of frightening. When I did the math, I realized that if we drained all of our savings and all of our retirement, we were scheduled to be broke by age 65. And at this point, I'm thinking, who's going to hire me at my age? But that
Yeah.
wasn't even the hardest part. The hardest part was driving home thinking, how am I going to tell my wife, Mary? She did not deserve the mess I just threw her life into. So I started looking for a job, and my heart wasn't in it. I did not want to go back to the corporate world. I couldn't even think about it. But I had to put food on the table. I had to keep a roof overhead, so I didn't have the luxury of just saying, "Oh, I do it." So
Exactly.
I started interviewing, and here's what happened when I was interviewing. Now they didn't say these words, but this is what they meant. Basically, David, the company that fired you did the right thing. You're of no value anymore to us either, you know. And so you might as well just, they were very polite and professional about it, but that's basically the
Sure.
message. And so I'm thinking, okay, this is not working, and this is serious. So I decided to take a huge risk, and I went to work as independent sales agent on straight commission, no salary, no safety net, no benefits.
Mhm.
JB, the first months were brutal. Cold calls, constant rejection, rookie mistakes. I mean, I heard more no's in 2 months than I think I ever heard in a 2 month period of my life. But as I look back now, I can kind of reflect on it. At the time, it was like pure hell.
Sure.
But when I reflect on it, I really believe all that rejection I was getting, all that resistance I was getting, was helping me build the mental muscles I needed to punch through that dark period. After 10 months of grinding, and I mean grinding, we hit an incredible milestone. I was suddenly making more money than my good paying corporate salary. And for a moment, JV, I thought, we made it. But then I realized we didn't make nothing because I've been making good money for 40 years. And look where it
Oh,
got me, nowhere. I'm on the verge
right,
of
right,
collapse. I have to
right.
learn how to build wealth. I have to learn how to invest because obviously I don't know what I'm doing there, even though I thought I did. So I read 21 books because I didn't want to get involved with people on commission and get me on the wrong path because I did that for 40 years. Read 21 books, listened to 13 podcasts faithfully on personal finance, read blogs, newsletter. Every time I get a good idea, I put it on one piece of paper. I
Sure.
kept filling up. When the paper was full, JV, I said, I'm not going to go beyond one piece of paper because I want to keep it simple. So I would take the worst idea off and put a better one on. I kept refining it and refining it until it was a set it and forget it approach. Because I had a business to run. I couldn't be watching Wall Street.
Yeah.
6 years later, we did what I thought was impossible. From terrified of being broke to a seven-figure portfolio and real financial freedom. I now know, JV, it's never too late to rewrite your story. Because if I can pull that off starting as late as 63,
Sure.
anybody can, I believe, with the right direction.
Absolutely, David. I'm aligned there and I agree. No matter your age, if you work hard, you can meet those goals.
I believe
So,
it.
David, walk us through that process. I know you worked the first year, 10 to 12 months, you were working hard and you weren't there yet. Fast forward to 6 years. So, let's dive a little bit into what took you to get to those moments, to those milestones.
Sure. Well, one of the things was what really got my direction in the right path was a true story I heard right about the time I was going through that dark period, and I'd like to share it briefly with you, listeners, if I could. Scientists at the Max Planck Institute did an experiment. What they did is they placed people in the center of a dense German forest and told them to walk in a straight line to the edge. Now, these were confident, capable people, but when the clouds covered the sun, the GPS tracking showed they were gradually starting to walk in circles. Some of them were ending up right where they began, but every one of them was absolutely convinced they were
Yeah.
walking in a perfectly straight line. That is me for 40 years, working hard, making good
Yeah.
money, thinking I was making the right financial investment decisions, but literally just going in circles financially. When I heard that, I said, I need a compass, but not a metal compass like travelers use. I needed a one-page compass. I need that 30,000-foot view because, JV, I don't know about you, but I get sidetracked real easy. Shiny object, hot tip, I'm off to the races in the wrong direction. And
Yeah.
I did that for 40 years, okay?
Yeah.
I
Sure.
didn't have time for those mistakes anymore. My runway was short. It was more like a helicopter pad than a runway. I couldn't waste
Mhm.
like I did for 40 years. And that's when I got the compass. I kept refining that compass and refining that compass. And it took me from, like I say, at 63, nearly broke, to 69, $1 million portfolio. And I attribute it to keeping me focused and keeping me on the right true principles because there's so much noise out there. There's so much confusion out there. And Wall Street is incentivized to can keep us confused. I tell you, I love Wall Street loves complexity because then you need them. You absolutely have to use them. I found that the truth is simplicity is for winners, complexity is for victims. And I was a
Yeah.
victim for 40 years. And I
Sure.
says, no more. That's not going to happen anymore.
Yeah. David, I want to talk a little bit about your one page wealth compass in a
Sure,
minute.
sure.
But before we dive into it, David, how important it is to put money into a 401k? Let's start there.
Well, it's critical. I mean, it's especially the younger you are, the better it is. I mean,
Sure.
and that was a mistake I made too. Another mistake I made, JV, that I don't want your listeners to make is procrastination. Okay,
Mm,
next year I'll start. Oh, and next year, oh, this is a bad year. Next, and it kept. Next year never
yes.
came. It never came. Or I put a token amount in if I had a super good year, a big bonus, but it was just a token amount. It wasn't nothing disciplined, nothing consistent about it. And that's one of the reasons I end up at 63 with practically nothing. I mean, I had a my investment, my 401k was pitiful. It was just pitiful. I mean,
Sure.
for somebody who made good money for 40 years, it was embarrassing. It was
Yeah.
humiliating. You don't want that to happen. And I tell you, what's even better than a 401k is if you can get or an IRA is a
Hmm.
Roth, because with a Roth one, all right, you don't get the initial tax deduction, but it grows for how many years, how many decades, tax free. That's like getting the government giving you a third of your money, taking your investment, and giving you a third more because you don't have to pay taxes on it. It's like it's a wonderful deal. So I love 401ks, I love IRAs, but if you can get in a Roth one, that's even the next step better. If you
I
can.
love that, David. So let's say someone graduated college, you're 21, 22 years old, David, and what is your recommendation for percentage to start off on a Roth or a 401k?
Okay, I have to. I'm going to give this to your listeners for free. But I have to show you the compass because that's that to answer your question. I need this.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. Now my compass has two columns. One is 9 trail markers to financial freedom and 5 North Star principles. The other one. Now, what the 9 trail markers do is it tells you find out where you're at and start from there. So why I can't answer your question is because I don't. I'd have to ask the person the question. Where are you at on these 9 trail markers? If they're saying, David, I'm not making enough money, my paycheck isn't enough. I'm barely making it, and I hate my job. By the way, that's where we need to start right now. We have a career. of the 21 books I read, JV, hardly any of them talked about money. I mean, earning a piece of it.
Sure.
They assumed you were making good money, or you wouldn't be reading a book on investing. Well, that's not
Exactly.
true. A lot of people are underpaid, underappreciated, and underemployed, and that's the first step. Okay, but let's pretend now they have a good job and they're happy with it or whatever. Okay, well then, but they say, but David, my problem is debt. I got credit card debt. Like, okay, then that's point number three. Then what I would do is I'd say, okay, let's get out of all consumer debt. I don't mean mortgage. I'm talking credit cards, student loans, car loans, anything that goes down in value, over time. Okay,
Sure.
house does not do that. Okay, because that's your best investment. If you're paying 21%, even if you're paying 10%, 5%, what you're doing is you're paying to make somebody else rich. We need to
Yes.
turn that puppy around. We need to get him making you rich. And the first step in getting yourself rich is stop paying other people to make them rich.
Yeah.
We need that
Yeah.
money. We need that cash flow, seriously, for your wealth, not their wealth. The credit card companies will be just fine without you, okay? We don't need to worry about them. And they'll feed their families. Okay, then once you get out of credit card debt, this is where the wealth building starts, okay? Now, may I tell you where most of the gurus get it wrong? Because this is what I found out when I did my company. I questioned everybody. I didn't care what their title was, how famous they were, and I did the math on everything. And here's what I found, JB, is wrong. Most of the gurus say, first thing, once you get out of debt, the first thing is you want a emergency fund. I call it a protection fund, but emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of your income or whatever. Okay, that's a good thing. I don't disagree with that. But guess how long it takes most people to get 3 to 6 months of their income in emergency fund? That's like, could be a year or two. I mean, let's just say a year. Let's say they're aggressive. Okay. So what they're telling you is don't invest in the market yet. Get your emergency fund, get the protection wall up, then start investing. Well, if a 25-year-old does that, he'll be out of the market for a full year. If you
Mm.
fast forward 40 years of the compounding, that's $500,000 for an average income 25-year-old. That's not good. $500,000 giving up. Here's what I say and how I tweaked it. I say, yes, your wealth accumulation and your smart protection fund, do them at the same time. When you got out of debt, JB, what just happened is you freed up a lot of cash flow. You're not making credit card payments or car payments. And so before you increase your living lifestyle, let's
Right.
get these two things going. Let's get the investments going. I like 15%. That's a number I like when you're out of debt. Okay. But 12%, 18%, that's your call. But I say 15 is a nice number. But you also want to build your emergency fund at the same time. Now you're not sitting on the market for a year, but you're still getting your emergency fund built and you're still getting your investments built at the same time. Little tweaks like that I found all over the place that Guru's just been talking about it since the 70s. And it's like, hey, wait a minute, you got to catch up with the times here. This is not the same place as it was in 1970. And there's some tweaks that need to be made, and they aren't making them. And so that's why I had to make this myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
That answer your question?
Absolutely. I love it, David. So let's say, David, we have anyone. Let's say after taxes, they're getting in a paycheck weekly $2,000. So walk us through what we're gonna do with those $2,000. We may have mortgage, some kind of mortgage to pay, rent, utilities, cell phone bill, credit card bills, right? So how can someone take some money, start with a 3 to 6 month plan, and
Mhm.
then some money and put it in the index or 401k or whatever it is?
Are we assuming they're out of debt now, or they're still in debt?
Let's
Maybe.
say they still in debt and trying to
Okay.
find a way.
Okay, what I say is to get a mini protection fund, which is 3%. That's number
Mm,
two, 3% of your income. This why, this way, you're protected for the little emergencies that are going to come up that derail you. You don't want. It's not going to be the big giant ones, but
mhm.
but it's going to get rid of the little things that the car broke down or whatever. You had to go to the hospital and get a deductible, that kind of thing. So get that in place first, okay? Then attack that debt like you never seen it attacked. I mean, just cut back a little bit. I'm sorry, we're gonna have to cut back a little bit while we're in debt, but that's okay because once you get out, you're gonna have freedom like you've never seen before. Okay, and get that debt before you start the big emergency fund, before you start the 401k investing. Let's get that debt out of the way. Now, some people argue with me, well, David, I think I should start investing right away because I can make more money in my investments than I can make in my debt. That's called arbitrage, interest arbitrage or debt arbitrage. I don't agree with that, and here's why. They never take into account the risk that's involved.
Sure.
I know people who did that game, and when 2008 came along, when the Great Recession, they lost their house, they lost their cars, they lost their investment properties. because they were so leveraged because they felt like, well, I'm making more money than the market. Well, the market tanked, all their investments tanked, and they lost everything. See, that's the calculation that they don't take into account. They don't take account the risk that's involved with debt. I'm not talking a mortgage for your house, but I'm talking that consumer kind of thing that's really bad. And so that's where I would start with getting out of debt, then go into the two steps right here. And by the way, all your listeners, they can get this for free. I'm not pitching nothing here. All the secret sauce, onepagewealthcompass.com. Put your email in, you'll get this downloaded instantly, and you'll get a newsletter to help you on tips, things like that. So I'm just, I don't want to think I'm teasing them like, and you have to buy something to get this. No, it's
Right.
free. It's free.
No worries, David. I will put the links
Yeah,
in the episode description so any audience member could easily go in, click on the link, and it will
yeah.
redirect them to your page.
Good. Okay, perfect.
So, David, it's again, we wealth. We talk about 401k, Roth. How much should someone put weekly, monthly, bi-weekly into the index fund? Because going back 20 years, you could not, let's say if a stock price was $300, you could not put $20 into that stock. You had to put $200 plus in order to buy stocks.
Yeah,
Now it makes it so much easier for anyone to invest because you don't have to buy the actual stock for $200. If you have $20, you could put towards that stock at whatever that cost is per share.
yeah.
So, what is your advice for someone that's starting off or someone that's in their 40s, 50s that want to start investing?
Okay. The first thing, thank you for that question because that is such a
Sure.
critical question. This is one of the biggest mistakes, if not the biggest, but definitely one of the biggest mistakes investors make. And this is the thing, tiny fees are like termites. You don't even notice them until your financial foundation crumbles. So let me explain what I'm talking about here because it addresses your question. Okay. You got two people, say they're both 25, starting out in life, and they both decide to put a modest $25 a week away in investing, okay, or for savings investing, okay. Person A puts it in a low cost index fund with a 0.03% annual management fee. Person B hires an advisor who charges a full 1%, which is common, and they put them in a actively managed fund with a 5.75 upfront load and a 0.66% ongoing management fee. Okay, now let's follow these people for 40 years. They both put the exact same $25 a week away every single week, okay? The market's the same for both of them. It's the same 40 years, okay? At the end of 40 years, person A has a $1 million portfolio on just $25 a week. Person B has a $570,000 portfolio. That's
Wow.
a $430,000 difference. JV, that wasn't market timing. That wasn't bad investments. That wasn't nothing. That was simply fees eating
Sure.
quietly like termites away at their investments. And we assume they never got a raise. If we've calculated normal raises, that $430 difference would be, it could be a half million, it could be a million, depending on their income. But here's the tragedy of the whole thing. Person B probably feels like he got great service. I mean, he likes his advisor. He knew his kids' names. They went golfing a couple of times. Little did he realize he did the equivalent of funding someone else's retirement with half of his own money. And that's what I consider wrong. I'm not against advisors, but what I am against are products that enrich Wall Street at the expense of their clients' portfolios. And I'm embarrassed to admit this to you, but I'm going to say it for your whole audience. For 40 years, I never questioned fees. I just thought those are rules of the game. And I just
Right.
thought that was how you do it. Now that I did my compass, I realized the rules we don't question can cost us the most. And in that case, it cost him $430,000. JV, that's just too much money to take from somebody's retirement. Just way too much money, I believe.
It is. It is, David. And earlier you said it. It's a $400,000 difference. That is huge.
It is. Some people don't even
Huge.
have that. Their whole
Right.
retirement isn't even that
Right.
much.
Exactly. Wow. Just thinking about it. So, David, it's wealth. So let's say, David, I'm 45 years old and I'm stuck. And I'm saying, David, I don't even know where to start, where to invest my money. Do I open a broker's account from Fidelity, Robinhood, Chase, or what to do? I'm
Yeah,
stuck.
yeah.
Where do I start, David?
Well, first of all, you need to get a major one. You know, like all the ones you mentioned are major. That's fine. They have a fiduciary behind them guaranteeing the funds, holding the funds, so you'll be fine there. Okay. But I think the real question is, well, let me just explain what I did during that 6 year period because it might help your audience. Well, will help them. Is I doubled my portfolio 3 times in a 6 year period. Now, most people know finance and Wall Street these days. That's not possible. I mean, the market didn't increase that much. You're either lying or delusional. Well, I'm neither. Let me explain what happened. I wasn't chasing crypto. I wasn't trying to time the market. I wasn't day trading. I was doing the opposite of that. I was doing something so boring it would put you to sleep. And here's the crazy part about it. When the market was down, JV, I was thrilled. When other people were panicking and selling, I was buying more shares at discount prices.
Yeah.
My only regret was the market wasn't down more during that 6 year period because I'd even done better than that. But what really
Right.
surprises me is the math. There's a thing you're probably familiar with called the rule of 72. And what it says is if you're getting a 10% return on your money will double every 7.2 years, or roughly every 86 months.
Sure.
When I got my compass in place, my first double occurred not in 86 months, in 30 months. The second one,
Mm,
13. The third one, 29, for an average of 24 months, way less than half the expected 86-month return. But the secret wasn't the returns, JB. This is where your audience might benefit. I did 3 things after I got my compass. I finally figured out that I didn't do for 40 years. Okay,
sure.
here's the 3 things. One, I saved a good percent of my money every month. I took it right off the top when I hit my checking account, before I could even pay the first bill or write a check. I took it out and put it in my savings before. And people call it paying yourself first or whatever you
Yep.
want to call it, but that's what I did. Okay. Second thing, I took that money and put it in the right kind of investments, which for me, and we've talked about this, is low cost index funds. Okay. I only own two. This is how simple my portfolio is. It's crazy. One of them is I own the total US market, every publicly traded stock in the United States. I own a little tiny sliver of each one of them. Okay. The other one is all the stocks outside the United States. I own every publicly traded one. So I literally own, JB, every publicly traded stock on the planet. For me to go broke to zero, the entire world economic system would have to collapse to nothing. And if that happens, we got bigger problems than money. Okay. But the point is I sleep good at night. I'm so diversified. If one company goes out or whatever happens, I'm not worried about it. And the third thing I did was I started using market volatility to work for me instead of against me. Too many people, JV and myself included, for 40 years, determined their investment approach with their emotions. And
Yeah.
oh, the market's down, oh, I'm panicking, or the market's down, or whatever it is. No, you cannot do that with emotions. Okay, what I learned is most people, myself included, they buy high, they sell low, which is the opposite of what you want to do. Okay. When I figured it out, I says, this is crazy. I'm buying every month. I don't care if it's high, low, or in between, but I love it when it's low because everything's on sale. Picture this. Say you were to go to the department store and they had a big sale, 50% off. Would you go up to the clerk and say, hey, I don't want no 50% off. I want to pay full retail. When's that thing going back to retail? No, you wouldn't do that. They think you were
Right.
crazy.
Exactly
but
not.
they
Right.
do it with they do it with the stock market every day. Oh my gosh, it's down 50% or 20%. I got to get out. No, that's when you want to buy. For over 200 years, every time the market has gone down, it has not only fully recovered, it has gone on to new heights. I sleep well at night knowing that 200 years of data is plenty for me. So the bottom line
Absolutely.
is I learned how to build my wealth twice as fast, and this is the important part, with half the risk compared to how I was doing it and compared to how so many people are doing it today. And that, if your listeners get nothing else but that is something that will make a big difference in your wealth building ability.
Yeah. David, that's powerful. So, David, we spoke earlier, and people make these mistakes. They say, I'm going to start tomorrow. Tomorrow comes, then next year, next month, so on and so forth. So, what is the biggest financial mistakes people make?
Well, I tell you, this is the big one that they're making. Is they're saying things like, "Oh, if I had the kind of money you make, David, or the
Mhm.
kind of money JV made, I could invest too. But I'm living paycheck to paycheck, buddy. I don't got that kind of money. This is
Yeah.
dreamland you're talking about. I don't have." Okay, that's a lie. First of all, let me explain why it's a lie. Okay, the NBA, the National Basketball Association, the average player makes over $10 million a year. I didn't say $10 million in their career. I said in one
One
year,
year.
average. But after 5 years of retirement, 60% of them are broke, according to the Netflix documentary Broke. But the NFL is even worse. After only 2 years of retirement, 78% of them are either bankrupt are in serious financial stress. That's according to Sports Illustrated. Let's compare that to Dale Schroeder, a basketball loving carpenter who
Yeah.
made average to below average income his entire life, but he followed the first principle on the North Star: live on less than you earn and invest the difference wisely. He ended up with a $3 million portfolio. JB, that's more than most of the NFL and most of the NBA with their $10 million paychecks
Yeah.
end up with. That's not so. Please don't think, oh, I don't make enough money. It's not that you don't make enough money. Here's what I found out when I made the compass: there's a difference between making money and building wealth. Those athletes, they are pros at making money. Most of them, not all, most of
Sure.
them are terrible at building wealth. Dale Schroeder, not so good at making money. His
Yeah.
income wasn't that great, but he was a master at building wealth. And
Mm.
once you understand there's two separate skills and you can learn both of them, you really can. Um,
Sure.
there's no more excuses. You can start, and you can start right away.
Yeah. David, that's fascinating because 5 years, the average NBA player, 10 million, they're making $50 million a year. And yes, in 5 years. And yes, taxes is involved and everything
Oh yeah,
else.
but
Why do you think they're either become broke, have a lot less money? Is it because they don't know how to manage their finances? They hire the wrong people to manage their finances? Like, why do you think that?
two reasons. Okay, one is, in fairness to them, they may not have. No one's ever taught them this. I mean, I'm not pointing fingers at them, JV, because for 40 years I didn't know what I was doing. Okay, so
Right,
I
right.
have no room to point fingers. So no one's taught them that, and they're getting bad advice like I did from people who have a conflict of interest. Okay, I really think that a person's paycheck is a powerful manipulator of truth. And when you're getting advice from somebody and their paycheck depends on what advice they give you, that's going to be slanted not in your favor and theirs.
Of
That's
course.
one. But the other thing is they never got this first principle right. Live on less than you earn. Okay,
Yeah,
one thing, if you make $10 million a year and you spend $11 million a year, you are literally the
yeah.
definition
You
of
in
going to
debt.
go broke. Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
right.
So
Yeah.
those two things I think are the reason I really do.
David, something else that fascinated me is the janitor versus the doctor. What exactly does that mean?
Well, I talk about it in my book, and Ronald Reed has become a very famous janitor. He's passed away quite some time ago, but he was never famous during his life. This all happened after he passed away. But anyways, he was a janitor making a janitor's income, which I'm assuming is below average income, but he lived on less than he earned, invested the different wisely, like our carpenter friend we talked about, Dale Schroeder, and he ended up with an $8 million portfolio. But yet the average medical doctor, 25% of them don't even, and when they retire, they don't even have $1 million portfolio. They have a six-figure portfolio, but yet they were making maybe a third of $1 million a year in income, depending on the doctor and their
Sure.
specialty. And it's just like, just because, here's another thing, okay? Just because you have academic smarts, just because you have 8 years of schooling or whatever, doesn't mean you know finance. And that's the real mistake a lot of people make. I made it for 40 years. Oh, I make good money. I made a really good
Yeah.
money for 40 years, most of those years. Doctors make excellent money, okay?
Mhm.
And so they assume they're good with money because they make good money. No, no. Remember, we talked about two separate skills:
Yeah.
making money and building wealth. And the doctors don't get that. Well, not a lot of them do, but about 25% of them obviously don't. And that's a real problem. Academic smarts, or fame, or big paychecks, that's all good, but it doesn't mean you know how to build wealth. That's a completely different skill set, and
Yeah.
some people never figure it out, unfortunately.
It's critical for in any industry you're in. It's important that you're investing or have some or learning your path, your finances, your wealth. It's critical. You start young, and if you can't start young, you start in your 30s, 40s, and 50s. At least you're starting somewhere. And if
Yep.
not, pick up David's one page wealth compass, and it has it all there.
Can I tell you another big challenge a lot of
Absolutely.
people have? A lot of people are intimidated by financial books. Let's face it, they're boring. They have a lot of charts and graphs, and they have a lot of terms a lot of people don't use every day in the week. And so just the thought of reading a financial book, it just is a turnoff to most people or a lot of people. When I read those 21 books, I have to admit they were kind of boring, but they were good information, but kind of boring.
Sure.
Okay. I says we need to change that. And so when I wrote my book, The One Page Wealth Compass, the book that goes along with the compass, I made it full of stories of real people, both failed and succeeded. And people are telling me, David, once I read about the failure guy and I read about the success guy, and myself's in there too, it makes so much sense. And then when you tell a principal, I go, I finally get it. I've heard this for years, but I never knew what it was, and I was embarrassed to ask or whatever. But now it's so simple, and that's the key. It's not doesn't need to be intimidating. Wall Street likes to make it intimidating, and I want to share a review because this relates to what we're talking about. I read all my reviews personally, but this is from a guy. He's a clinical psychologist with 25 years experience, no real financial background at all. He said he was facing his own career crisis. He said the one-page wealth compass gave him the exact financial hope and practical steps he needed. But here's my favorite part of his quote. I couldn't put the book down. That's how it was written. It was for the non-financial person who can understand stories that are true and understand, when you put it into real life examples, but doesn't want the theory, doesn't want the spreadsheets, doesn't want the graphs and charts, that kind of thing. And so making it simple and making it interesting is something I think new to the financial world in a lot of respects. And I says that's what's missing for a lot of people.
Sure.
I really believe.
So fired at 63, nearly broke safely a millionaire by 69.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
So, David, what do you tell people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s?
I tell them, I wish I was you because I didn't get this till I was 63. You're getting it in your 40s or 50s. Oh my gosh, what a head start you got. You got like a decade or two on me. Let me just read some stats if I could, because this
Absolutely.
might wake up some people up. This is from the National Council on Aging. 80% of older adults are facing financial insecurity. I didn't say 20%. I didn't say 50%. I said 80%. That's most of society.
Yeah.
So everyone out there thinking, oh, that's going to be me. I'll get my act together before I get. No, you need to get your act together now.
Yeah.
It's really simple. 50% of people 60 plus do not have sufficient income to cover basic needs. We're talking about housing, food, and healthcare. And this is one more I want to read. Number one cause for gut-wrenching stress among seniors is the fear of running out of money before they run out of life.
Wow.
These are people, JV, who work 40 years,
Yeah.
were loyal employees, helped make their employers rich, but they forgot something along the way, how to make themselves rich.
Yeah.
And that's why I wrote this compass. When I was in a dark period of my life and I got the inspiration for this compass, it was like a lifeline.
Sure.
It saved me. It really did. I felt like it would be the ultimate in selfishness not to share this with the people because I don't want anybody at 63 facing the nightmare I faced because it's just not worth it when you can start earlier. If I would have had this compass in my 50s or 40s or 30s or better yet 20s, oh my gosh, what a difference it would have made.
Be a life changer, David.
Oh, absolutely.
Huge life changer. Now in society, everything is expensive and everything is going up and up and up. So, do you think in retirement is $1 million safe nowadays in 2026?
Well, I guess it depends on a lot of
Sure.
things. Like if you're in New York, right?
Yes.
If you're living in New York City, $1 million may not really get you much of a lifestyle. But if you're living in Omaha or Nebraska, whatever, where the cost of living is lower, it might be like you could live a really comfortable life, in Alabama or whatever, that kind of thing. I live in Phoenix, okay, and it's not ridiculously high, but it's not low either, for sure.
Yeah.
Here, and so that's an individual thing. But you also got to look at, okay, what is your guaranteed income? Are you getting Social Security? Do you have a pension? Probably not. Do you have an annuity? That kind of thing. Do you have rental property? So you don't need to. The portfolio doesn't need to fund everything for you, but it's going to probably have to, for most people, fund the most of it for them. Okay, because I don't know of anybody that can live on Social Security and have a good life. It was not designed that way.
Yeah.
I know too many good people, JV. I mean, good Christian people who were played by the rules, worked hard for 40 years. They retire, and I've seen it. They have to make a decision between medication and food,
Oh my.
or rent
Yeah.
and medication. And this is real.
It is.
I mean, and it takes them to their graves. All 40 years or 50 years of working, and this is what they have, and misery to the grave financially, because financial cloud affects every other area of our life. It seems like our health, our spiritual life, so many different areas of our life. It really is. So that's why I want to get this, so people don't have to do that. It's just wrong.
I could relate, David. I talk to my
Yeah,
wife and we sit down, we have a family, and I say, okay, we need to continue investing and continue trying to lower our credit card debt, continue trying to put money on our 401k in our investments because as you get older, you never know what's going to happen. And we got to make sure when we do retire, we are financially stable in a way that, like you just said, if I need to pay for a medication or food, we could do both.
yeah. Exactly, exactly. That's where it should be, anyways.
Right.
And another thing about that too is, if you start in your 20s and 30s, here's the beautiful part about this: you could be by 40, you could have it funded, or you can live comfortably now, and working now becomes an option, not a requirement. Or you can increase your lifestyle really nice, not have to worry about investing anymore because you've got your fund ready and you can calculate what it's going to be worth when I'm 65, and that'll be plenty to fund your deal. So, but if you squander those early years in 20s and 30s, then that becomes a lot. You're making it a lot more difficult on yourself than it really needs to be. It
Yeah.
really does.
So, David, in crypto, there's so much hype around crypto, right?
Yeah.
It's 24 hours a day. You could wake up
Yeah.
at 3 in the morning and say, I want to buy more Bitcoin or Ethereum or, Solana, whatever it is. Do you think crypto is important? And do you see crypto making a huge impact in society in 5 to 10 years from now?
Okay. Um, I don't have any crypto. Okay. I never will have crypto. I'm 72 though. I'm in a little different situation than you are. Okay. Our people, younger. My son is 33 and he has crypto. Some, not a lot, but very little. But anyways, here's my thinking on the whole. That's a volatile investment. That's not like a Fortune 500 company, that kind of thing. It's a volatile investment. I'm not saying that's bad. I really not. Some people, oh, crypto is terrible. It's evil. No, I don't think it's terrible and evil. But here's my thinking on the high risk volatile investments. If you like to play that game, and there's nothing wrong with that, people enjoy that, okay? Um, I would say take a small portion of your portfolio, like 5% at the very most 10%, okay? And say, okay, that's going to be where I kind of take some risks. Now, it could pay off really big. That 5% or 10% could be worth more than your whole rest of your 90% of your portfolio, but it also go to zero, or go to cut in half too. But if it's only 5 or 10%, preferably 5,
Yeah.
then okay, it's not going to kill your lifestyle. It's not going to destroy your retirement.
Mhm.
But if you got everything in crypto and it tanks, and then you're in a situation where it's just not, and all of a sudden it goes out of style or whatever the heck happens in the future. I can't predict it. That's really dangerous. So I'd say, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not against. A lot of people might say, oh no, crypto. No,
Sure.
I'm not against it. I'm just saying keep it proportional, and have the total market working for you, not this one thing that's very volatile.
Yeah.
That's my thinking. You may disagree, but that's my
No,
thinking.
no. Yeah. You
Yeah,
see, maybe I think it's 4 to 5 months ago, Bitcoin was $100,000. And
yeah,
now it's, I think, at 60 some odd $1,000. So that's a
yeah.
huge collapse.
Very much so. Very much so.
Even though there's a lot of money
Yeah.
still, but it's a huge collapse.
But look at the market. The market's been a little volatile in that
Yes.
period, but not that anywhere near that big a swing. So I wouldn't be able to sleep good at night if I
Sure.
had nothing but crypto. I'd be
Right.
like, oh my
Right.
God. Well, I can sleep wonderfully now. I don't have any
Absolutely.
problem sleeping.
So that's something I always hesitated. I did invest in crypto. Like you said, I did it small. I didn't do anything
Yeah,
crazy that I lose sleep
right.
overnight. I
Yeah,
rather
that's
do
fine.
it on the index. That's I feel more
Yeah,
comfortable because I know it's not
yeah.
going to collapse overnight. If it goes down, we
No,
know in a month, 2 months
right.
from now, it's going to go up.
Way back. Yeah.
It's interesting because people are thinking crypto is the next big thing and you're going to become a millionaire overnight. And maybe people are if they put it in, $200,000, 300,000 and day trading quickly on
Here,
a cryptocurrency. Who
here,
knows?
here's the problem with highly volatile investments of any kind, not just
Sure.
crypto. Okay, yeah, you could make a big bunch of money, but when do you get out?
Mm,
That's the key. And most people, when it climbs, oh, it's 100,000. Okay, I bet it's going to go to 110. Oh, then all of a sudden it's at 60. And now, wait a minute, I was at 100. But you didn't get out. It was 100
right.
because no one has a crystal ball. You don't know, is 100 the cap, or is just warming up and it's going to go to 200? No one knows that. And that's the thing. And so you don't know when to get out. And that's what the real risk is. You don't know when to get out. And you think you do, but you really don't.
Yeah.
No one knows.
Yeah. That's true, David. You have so much great advice. And for the audience that's watching or listening to this episode, I'm hoping that you're going to take a lot from what David has to say today. And I encourage you all to go to his website and look at the one page wealth compass. It's going to teach you a lot. So, David, I like to always ask my guests one final question. What final thoughts or words would you like to share with the world?
Sure. This is what I like to share. Clear direction beats misdirected speed every time. For 40 years, I had misdirected speed. I was spinning my wheels, going in circles, going nowhere. Once I got my compass, I accomplished more in terms of building wealth in 6 years than I had in the previous 40 years.
Mm,
So you want to get clear direction. Please download. It's free. There's no cost or obligation. Download the One Page Wealth Compass on onepagewealthcompass.com and get your free and take a look at it and just say, wait a minute, does this make sense? Where am I at? Where do I want to go? And just go from there.
yeah, that's great advice, David. Well, my friend David, it's been a pleasure talking to you today. Thank you so
You
much for
too.
your time. I appreciate it, and I look forward to the next time we talk. Take care.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Appreciate it.
Before I go, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for pressing play. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching on YouTube. I truly appreciate you taking the time to be here with me. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other platform, follow the podcast so you don't miss out on the next episode because we're going to keep having real honest conversations like this. And remember, your influence grows every time you choose courage over comfort. I'm JV. Stay curious, stay consistent, and keep influencing others.